Was Jerry Seib. He's executive Washington editor at the Wall Street Journal. He's had a front row seat, of course, to politics and power in Washington for the last 4 decades and interviewed every president since Reagan. Jerry, it's good to see you back. Do you want to comment at all on what's gone down just in the last few moments here as we begin?
It's kind of hard to know where to start. It takes your breath away a little bit. I mean, Shep is right. The president's rhetoric at the rally is pretty remarkable, and a lot of it is directed at his own party, other Republicans, Bill Barr, Liz Cheney, Republican leaders in general. So, there is a kind of a take the party down with me aspect to this. And a lot of it was directed at Vice President Pence, who must have known that was coming because he was prepared to say how he's going to handle this afternoon. So I do think we're looking at mostly political theater. The outcome is a foregone conclusion, but it'll be hours before this plays out. I do think that at every step of this process, it becomes a little more clear that Joe Biden will clearly be the next president of the United States.
Yeah, and as we talk about the power shift, the balance of power shift there, I also think it's worth noting that after November 7th, initially, it looked like a reckoning for the Democrats. I mean, here was a party that thought they were going to have a blue wave and instead was given a purple, if not red, Congress with a democratically elected Democrat president, which is highly unusual. Now it looks like a moment of reckoning for the GOP with the results of this Georgia runoff, Jerry, suggesting perhaps that the lack of enthusiasm and the civil war, I think, as you alluded to, that's now brewing.
Yeah, it's a really good point, Kelly, because, really what Republicans could have been doing over the last month or 6 weeks was celebrating what was a very good election night for them initially. I mean, they gained seats in the House, which was not expected. Most of the Republican incumbent senators who were imperiled defended themselves and held their seats. There was every reason to think they could win at least one of these Georgia Senate seats. And except for the vote at the presidential level, the Republicans had a very good night. They won states in the legislative chambers all around the country. Now, though, they're about to apparently lose control of the Senate because they've lost those 2 Georgia seats, in part because it appears the president's rhetoric probably helped suppress Republican votes. He said essentially the voting is rigged, and you say to yourself, why should I vote in a rigged election? And so what might have been a very happy post-election period for Republicans is turning out to be anything but that. And that was probably avoidable because, the truth is on November 3rd, the party did quite well, except at the presidential level.
November 3rd. I think I said November 7th. I appreciate you correcting the record there. So the other interesting factor now with control, let's call it a light blue wave, or for lack of a better word, Democratic control of the Senate, which appears like the outcome here. There's a lot of focus by investors in the near term on what that's going to do for tax rates and certainly for stimulus checks. We've already been hearing some rhetoric from the new leader, Chuck Schumer. But to me, the more consequential issues longer term are we doing away with the filibuster? And is somebody like Joe Manchin all that stands between now and that outcome?
Well, let's look at this in stages. I mean, in the short term, a Democratic president and this Democratic president and a democratically controlled Senate certainly means more stimulus spending, and that makes the markets happy because it's a short-term stimulus, coronavirus stimulus. Probably means better chances of a big infrastructure bill in the next year or so. President Trump tried to do that, but he didn't succeed. This alignment probably speaks to that, and there, as the previous segment indicated, there are aspects of the market that like that. In the medium term, it probably means more attempts by Democrats to roll back Trump tax cuts, but that is going to be difficult because with the Senate 50-50, which would be the outcome, Democrats are nominally in charge, but really nobody's in charge. And as you suggest, centrists in both parties who aren't going to be wild about big tax increases have a lot of leverage. So you could expect some movement on the tax front, but not giant movement. And President Biden has kind of made it clear that he's not really interested in rolling back the filibuster. He's a kind of a Senate institutionalist and traditionalist, was there for 4 decades. And so a lot of the liberal, progressive wing of the Democratic Party will have a wish list that I think is actually going to be fairly difficult to enact, even though they will have nominal control of both the White House and Congress. So I think from the market's point of view, this is a formula that still kind of keeps the process in the middle of the road in Washington. It's not going to veer as far left as some people in the Bernie Sanders wing of the party might have expected or liked.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.